Hello and welcome to our webinar entitled Planning, Permitting, and Licensing Must-Haves When Replacing Your Legacy System. My name is Brian Wick and I head up product marketing for Excella. And joining me today is Amber DeTavio, our Vice President of Product Management. And so I'm going to be talking through some of the concepts via PowerPoint slides that we'll be covering today. And then Amber's going to really show you how we approach that within our product, and you'll actually see the product at work. Before we get to that though, I do want to start with a poll. And so if we could launch that first poll question, please. So the first poll is a very important question. Why are you attending today? Which describes you best? The first answer is I'm unhappy with our current solution and looking to make changes as soon as possible. I'm researching multiple vendors in preparation for replacing our current solution in the midterm. And then the third answer is we have no plans to make changes, but just curious how Excella is different than our current solution. So just go ahead and, if you wouldn't mind, just click your answer real quick, and then perhaps we can see the results. And the results of why people are here today is actually, there's no one, 0% are saying that we're unhappy and we're going to make changes right away. And then about the rest of the audience here is split between I'm just researching vendors for maybe midterm changes or no plans to make changes, but just curious about how Excella is different. So with that, let's move right along. And so this is sort of our agenda. You probably got the invitation to this webinar that described 5 things to consider when moving off of legacy systems. Well, in our research, we found 3 more. So we actually have 8. And really, the point of this entire webinar is the fact that there is consolidation in CDR, Community Development and Regulatory Solutions. That's our space. It's licensing, permitting, and code enforcement. I'll give you some examples. The Trackit product. We know a lot of customers on Trackit. That started with CRW and then through SunGuard, that acquisition, a name change, and then Central Square with a whole series of other products coming together. Viewpoint Cloud being acquired by OpenGov, a very different type of business, type of technology. Even EnerGov with Tyler was an acquisition into a much larger organization with many more other priorities and investments that are required across a very broad product line. Clarity is a recent acquisition. And so as a user of this technology, what does this mean to you? And we just have examples of it not going so well, just due to the dilution and the difficulty in investing across a much broader set of technologies when these acquisitions occur. We've got an example of one of our competitors that is now down to about 10% of their overall revenues come from their CDR solution. 20 people across this organization that are now focused in this effort. When the acquisitions occur, there's all sorts of different restructuring and prioritizations and cost savings opportunities. That's one of the reasons why they do it. But it can affect the customers on that platform. What are they going to get with regards to innovation? Things like APIs and partner networks and things like that are sort of a little bit more subtle behind features, but they're tough to maintain. They do get diluted. They tend to have to fight for investment and development, and it often doesn't work out that well. So we wanted to talk about that as must-haves. If you're finding yourself in this situation and you feel like you need to look at other opportunities or other solutions, these are the 8 things that we think could be helpful to keep in mind. The first one is a vendor's focus on CDR, and I've already really talked about that. The second is how they implement their SaaS. A lot more agencies are looking to SaaS for all the benefits that it brings, but there are different ways that SaaS can be implemented and provisioned. Citizen portal access and overall engagement, system extensibility, flexible and intuitive workflows. That's the core aspect of process automation. And what we see when we do our competitive intel is sometimes that's an area that suffers. The mobile solution aspects with code enforcement and inspectors, flexibility of the system, which is tough to build into a system and have it work well, often suffers, as well as just the nature of the upgrades. So we're going to talk about each one of these in a little bit more detail. Then again, Amber is going to focus on showing you how we approach these things. Before I get going though, on these slides, I want to mention that there is a Q&A icon in your Zoom panel. And so go ahead and please put a question in. We anticipate we'll have time at the end to answer your questions. Please don't use the chat. The Q&A is much better because we can have a record of those questions and follow up directly if we don't have time. So again, put your questions in anytime and I'll bet we'll be able to get to them at the end. Focus, again, through that dilution, through the restructuring, what is the percentage of revenues coming from community development and regulatory versus other aspects like public safety, CAD systems, emergency response, whatever the nature of it might be. As I mentioned before, how many people are dedicated to that part of the business? Ask those questions. Excella, our approach is, this is all we do. We are a community development and regulatory company. We've been doing it for over 20 years. We have many customers, and our focus and our specialization has meant that we can innovate, we commit, we provide a lot of those characteristics that I teed up in the very first slide around our community development and regulatory customers. So code enforcement, permitting, and licensing. This is all we do. On the SaaS side, is the vendor hosting themselves or are they using a market leader? There's a big difference, especially in this world of security and that aspect that has made, world-class SaaS and hosting infrastructures that much more important. Do they prioritize security for the infrastructure and the applications? Much harder when you're doing it yourself. In fact, not too long ago, we undertook a year-long project to move all of our hosted customers from our own cloud infrastructure centers or data centers into the Azure data center. Why did we do this? Because of the challenges for things that are expected with SaaS: reliability, performance, and scalability, as well as security and the protection associated with that. So we felt a world leader like Microsoft could do it far better than we could. And by the way, when it comes to security, we leverage a broad set of certifications with Azure. They are cutting edge. In fact, they spend, you can see the note there, over $1 billion a year on security R&D for their Azure infrastructures. And then, on top of that, we audit ourselves for things like SOC 2, Type 2, HIPAA High-Tech, PCI, California Consumer Privacy Act. So whereas our infrastructure with Azure is highly secure with all of the necessary certifications, we build on that with our own certifications and auditing as well. So again, ask your current vendor, how do they approach that? And are they doing it themselves or are they doing it through an organization like Microsoft Azure? Other vendor must-haves: engaging and feature-rich citizen portal. Now, if there's one thing that our customers have told us over the past couple of years is that citizen engagement, the expectations of citizens is now totally different. They want that eBay, that Amazon experience, and they'll go on social media and complain about it if a government agency can't provide all of that, the ability to access information, conduct transactions and interactions, pay fees, submit documents, all of that on any device if they're choosing it any time of the day or night. So a citizen portal must be fully responsive because people will access it from their computers, their tablets, their phones. It's got to be highly intuitive because there's no training citizens on that software. So whatever you do, expose out to your citizens for interaction, it's got to be just so simple that they can get it, not get frustrated, because citizens who get frustrated, they'll do one of two things. They'll pick up the phone, which means you got to answer the phone, and with the call center environment, or they'll come into your office, which means you got to staff a counter. And when you can get more and more citizens to complete their transactions online, your cost savings are reduced dramatically. And I think that's something that most agencies are realizing. Map centricity for service delivery. That's something that we've learned, some of our competitors haven't evolved in their citizen portal. Full ADA compliance, critical now. And again, we're seeing some of our competitors without full ADA compliance, multiple languages as well. Pre-form fill guidance and qualification. So instead of having a citizen come in and literally just get hit with a form fill, long form, guide them through it, help them determine what the process is, inform them as to the process, ask them questions that can help qualify which documents they'll need to fill out, which permits they might need, and then how to go about getting those permits. The ability to integrate department sites into agency sites, that's something that we focused on with our premium citizen experience. Amber's going to come back and show you that in a little bit, because a website is a website. A window into the agency is a window, and it's got to have the same branding and look and feel, because otherwise citizens won't know that they're in the right place. It's just non-intuitive to have one look and feel for an agency site. And now they go into a department site or a form fill experience, and it looks nothing like how they got there. And then a low code, no code development and maintenance environment, because nobody wants to have to pay third parties every time they want to make changes to their websites. So these are the things that we focus on. And again, we've heard that some of our competitors in those legacy systems won't have. Extensibility is key, because a CDR system is never in a bubble. It's never standalone. There's a content management, document and plan review capabilities, payment processing, IVR for those phone systems. So a system has to be able to share data and process automation with other solutions. Must have published and high quality APIs. Again, as our experience is showing and our research shows that when an organization gets restructured, that is often something that is not developed. And some of the customers that come to us, Excella, and transition from other platforms have said they saw that those were neglected or they never existed in the first place. This is a strong focus for us. Prepackaged connectors to this extended functionality, some of the examples that I just talked about. Our construct APIs, we invest heavily and have a broad team focused on the published APIs that allow our customers to integrate very broadly, as well as pre-built integrations that come out of the box to the more common types of third-party components that are necessary to complete the process automation. And then the one thing we also hear from customers that come to us from some of these examples that I shared is that when an organization buys another, perhaps CDR solution into a much broader set of products, the marketing team will really be describing how this intra-company integration, this seamless integration across all of these aspects, from ERP to financials, across all the permitting, licensing, et cetera, et cetera. Agencies do need that integration across departments. We know that, and they're telling us that. But the problem is that it's very, very hard through a company that's been growing through acquisitions to actually invest in the time to even get their own products to work seamlessly. And in fact, a number of customers have told us about the nightmares of just buying into that strategy, that claim, and then realizing, well, these products aren't really integrated as nearly as well as what the vendor had said. Our fifth one is an intuitive and visual workflow management system. Again, our research shows that that's something that in some cases has been neglected. The ability to design and manage workflow visually, process transparency, which is hugely important for the citizen to know, I've submitted my application, where are we in it now, as well as the agency employee. Strong support for field workers as well. A mobile client is incredibly important with offline capabilities, pre-built checklists, scheduling, routing, things that are very, very specific to code enforcement, inspectors, work crews, those kinds of things. We build those in to our field, our mobile products, because again, we've been doing this for so long. We have many customers that utilize us for that and have influenced our roadmap in this area. And of course, support for multiple devices. My seventh is high degrees of system flexibility and agility. That's the one thing between things like cannabis regulations, short-term rentals regulation, new things like 5G solar permitting. Agencies need the ability to take on new permitting functions, new licensing functions, and do it quickly. And of course, with COVID, we saw a complete change in operations in a snap of the fingers in March of 2020, when agency employees had to work from home, citizens could no longer come down to offices. And so what was required at that point was flexibility and agility. And our customers that had implemented Excella, we've heard more often that their operations didn't skip a beat. They were able to adjust to the new operational requirements incredibly quickly, whereas other agencies that are a little bit further behind struggled a lot more. And then finally, upgrades. We've heard from our research that upgrades must be painless with SaaS, obviously, because those automatic upgrades, or just very straightforward for on-premises customers. And some of our competitors we're hearing have huge issues with upgrades, forklift upgrades that are highly expensive and resource intensive. And our focus, again, get everybody on SaaS, because just that's a huge value to our customers. But also for our on-premise customers, we've gone to 2 majors a year, service packs, and really the idea is much more configuration versus customization, which usually drives those forklift upgrades and make it much more easy for our customers to stay on current versions, because that's where our innovation is, that's where our security is, that's where capabilities, functionality, and performance are all on the new version. So that's why that's super important to us. All of these things, again, before I turn it over to Amber, are hard. And so having that focus and that investment allows us to really hone in on these things, because we know that these are very important. Companies that are brought together through many acquisitions, lots of different product lines, lots of dilution of resources and investment, they struggle in these areas. So with that, we have our second poll. If you could kick it off, please. We could kick off, there we go. The question is, and this is something that isn't overly related to what I've discovered, but it's very, very important right now. And agencies want to learn about this. We want to provide that kind of information to our agency customers. So that's why we're asking it here, because it helps us provide value. Have you considered using ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan Act, in order to fund or invest in new projects, extend current projects, and so forth? Many of you have probably heard of ARPA. It's federal stimulus down to the state and local government area. And there are provisions and capabilities to utilize this for technology purchases. Please, if you wouldn't mind taking a second and answer the question. 1, what's ARPA? 2, I'm familiar with it, but have no plans. 3, I'd like to use ARPA, but not sure of the process, because there are some nuances to the process for sure. And then the 4th question is, or answer rather, yes, I'm working with my team on this already. So if you wouldn't mind taking a second and fill out our poll. I think we're probably good now. So if we could see the results, please. So we have 40% are asking, what is ARPA? And so that's interesting. And please, we have ARPA information both on our website, where we've got some content that we can help with. Put that in the Q&A box if you wouldn't mind. Let us know who you are, and we can certainly send you information on ARPA. 20% indicated they're familiar with it, but have no plans to use it. 20% was I'd like to use ARPA, but not sure the process. And the final 20% is I'm working with my team on this already. So very, very interesting. Again, reach out to us if you'd like more information. With that, I will stop sharing and turn it over to Amber.
All right, thanks, Brian. All right, so as Brian mentioned, Excella focuses on solutions for your planning, permitting, and licensing and code enforcement needs. These solutions address end-to-end processes and interactions between the public, the back office agency staff, and those outside the office working in the field. I'm going to start with citizen engagement because it's so important. When we talk to government leaders and government employees serving the public, the conversation almost always comes down to how can we serve the public better? How do we improve our reputation? How do we build trust within our community? And how do we attract businesses and talent? And at the same time, reduce operational costs. The cost of face-to-face interactions starts at $10.90. The average cost of a phone call starts at $3.15 and can go upwards of $5 a call. And then we look at the cost of online, 25 cents per interaction. It's an unbelievable difference. And it's obvious for so many reasons that we should be driving traffic to the website as much as possible. Now, when it comes to providing services to the public, we focus on 4 things. We need to make it easy for people to find the information they need. We need to ensure that it's presented in a simple and actionable way. When they come to complete a task, empower them to do so there and then. It must work for everyone in your community, regardless of age or ability, and on whatever device they prefer. And lastly, take the opportunity to delight whenever possible. When people come to their city website, they have a specific problem or need that only their local government can help them with. They come here to get something done. So let's say I want to host a special event, a wine and food tour. If I've never done this before, where do I go? I'm not familiar with the processes or the departments responsible for special events, so I go to the city's website. It's very common that when a person visits the site, they'll look at the homepage, they'll click around a little bit, and if they don't find what they need, they pick up the phone or walk in. But on this site, there's a search option asking them, what do you want to do today? The predictive search starts suggesting information, and I find apply for a special event permit. Immediately, I see information on options to apply online, on paper, over the phone, or in person. I also see the eligibility requirements and the step-by-step instructions, such as the required plans, how much time I should expect to complete the application, and the fees that are required to host my special event. When I click apply, I'm asked a series of questions to help determine whether I need a special event or any other permits regarding the event, such as the number of people I expect, will I have fireworks? And throughout this process, I'm stopped and informed when something is not allowed or more information is needed. Based on the information I provided, here I do need a permit and I can start the application process right here. I'm then taken to a disclaimer page and then right into the application. I enter the name and description as well as the location of my event. I then enter my contact information. And if I already have an account, I can select from that, or I can add any new contacts. Now there's validation throughout the entire application process to make sure that the required information is provided. I then can enter the information about my event. Now the information I previously entered during the qualifying questions is pre-populated so that I only need to enter the additional information about my event, such as the dates, more things like, am I going to have open flames or tents or canopies? And then I can upload the required and supporting documents, such as the plans, traffic flow, parking, and even photos. Once I complete, I can review my application for completeness and accuracy, and now I'm ready to pay for the fees. The fees are then put into a shopping cart so that I can pay now, or I can add other services and pay all at once. Once I make my payment, then it will be routed to the proper departments, and I can come back and check status at any time. Now let's jump over to the back office. When I log in, I can see the tasks that are assigned to me. I can also see new permits submitted online from the records list. I can filter down to the special events and I see the wine and food tour. I can then drill down into the details and see all of the information that was entered, such as the location, the contacts, the documents, and the details of the event. Once I completed my review, I can then update the status and move on to the next step in the workflow. Now, what you're seeing today is all available on a low-code platform. This means that the agency can offer services and publish critical information to the public with no custom code. No need for technical resources, allowing the business users, the people that are closest to the community, the ability to create and publish the content at the time when it's most needed. Now, publishing new services or extending your services is also possible with Excella's Civic platform. We publish open APIs that allow you and other technology partners to integrate your application solutions for data sharing and collaboration, increase productivity, and improve the user experience for the public and your agency staff. We work together with our technology alliance partners across the globe to do just that. Now let's talk about data. Once you have your site up and running, you'll have access to data that's going to help you make decisions on how to provide future services, call out areas for potential optimization, and enable you to make those adjustments. You'll also see things like how many submissions are made online, over the phone, or in person, and you can use this data in addition to your public's feedback to make the changes to your site or services that you offer until you provide those services that delight. For example, you find that there are more searches to apply for a farmer's market or a street festival than a special event. You can add commonly searched words to your content to display in the predictable search. You may also find that the volume of roofing permits goes up in the spring, and you might want to surface that information for easy access. Now let's move on to our final demo and take a look at our mobile solution that's available on Android and iOS for phone and tablet. From my iPad, I can see the jobs assigned to me. I'm going to go ahead and select the property maintenance inspection that was created based on a complaint from a neighbor about the tall grass on this property. I can access all the information I need in the field, such as the contact information of the neighbor or the property owner and the property information. Now let's start the inspection. I can select predefined checklists for property maintenance. And for this one, I'm going to select the external property checklist. This checklist includes all external property violations so that I can mark each one that I observe. I'll start by indicating that this property is occupied because I did see the property owner was outside getting their mail as I arrived. I'll then find the checklist item for the high weeds or grass. Now the grass is quite tall and can be a fire hazard. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this as a new violation, as this is the first time for this property and property owner. I can then enter freeform comments or pick from my favorite comments or commonly used comments. Or I can pick from a standard set of comments that are preloaded with the latest codes. So let's go ahead and select the code violation of grass taller than 12 inches with all the information about the violation and the consequences of not resolving the issue. I can then attach any pictures or videos. So let's go ahead and take a picture and then attach it to this checklist as documentation of the issue. And we're able to mark up the photo to point out any problems. The picture and the detailed comments will display on the violation report and help the property owner understand what needs to be done. Once we complete the checklist, let's go back and result the inspection and issue the violation. I have an opportunity to enter some more comments, or I can also just skip right to the signature where I can sign. And also if the responsible party is there, they can sign as well. And then once the violation is issued, it can be printed in the field and also emailed, and the details will be available online through Citizen Access for the property owner. Now that was just a sneak peek of mobile. Of course, it supports many different personas and use cases and can be tailored to meet the job at hand. Now, what I showed you today was our pre-built Civic applications, all powered by the Civic platform. And these Civic applications accelerate your implementation and include the best practices from Excella's 20+ years of domain experience. And that concludes the product demo. I'll turn it back over to you, Brian, to see if we have any questions.
Great. And thank you so much, Amber. And I think I maybe was a little long-winded up front because we've utilized all of our time. We do have a handful of questions. We will follow up with you directly with your questions, but I know we'll start losing folks because you've got other meetings to get to. So thank you so much for taking the time with us today. We hope that this webinar has answered some questions with regards to legacy products and moving into newer options for you and those things that you're really going to need to pay attention to. So if you have any further questions, follow up with us. We're always here to help you out, and have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you on the next Excella webinar. Bye now.